Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. And of course, to the blessed souls here in this space together here on January 2nd, it's hard to get the word out, final day of a retreat. There must be another way of talking about the end of something as a continuum of love and beauty, tolerance, life as the evolution of beauty rather than location, gender, time, politics. To me, this vocation, very rare vocation, known as the practice of the Dhamma, yesterday I spoke of 5 key words that are very intimate to me that define the mandala of my heart. An intersecting, liberating wisdom vortex of energies. Nibbana, the Buddhist Pali word for unconditional, an unconditional presence in now-time reality. And the ultimate ideal of the complete absence of fear, greed, and delusion from the deepest recesses of one's own consciousness. The quality of panya, wisdom, very different than knowledge, very different than psychological intelligence or emotional intelligence and social intelligence. But panya, mindful intelligence, the wisdom to discern the mind's unknown involvement and collusion with its own fear, its own greed, its own pretense, its own sadness, its own worry, its own doubt, its own ignorance. The nuances of those emotions and the mind's attachment, collusion, and even fusion with these states with a degree of righteousness. We all know throughout history the role of dictators and tyrants, driven by extreme ignorance, extreme greed, the mind state of fusion with these kilesas, wisdom to see that in oneself, the wisdom to feel the texture of those states of mind in one's own thought, speech, and action, and the wisdom to have the courage to restrain those thoughts, speech, and action before they arise, the courage to stop them while they're present, and the courage to have mindful reflection when they cease through speech and action and thought, aha, a self-correcting reflection. I must be more vigilant to restrain those ignorant thought, speech, and behavioral mind streams, currents, wisdom, panya, and the wisdom to see love, the wisdom to see generosity, the wisdom to elevate the quality of freedom in self and other as the highest priority of being. Freedom here as the absence of aggression. a deep-rooted regard for ahimsa, or harmlessness, as an attribute of panya. Panya, the ability to restrain and the ability to elevate. And then the three characteristics of anicca, anatta, and dukkha. Anicca, the infinite sea of conditionality, impermanent, changing on the most molecular levels, a vibratory frequency of energies that animate a body and a mind and a life and an earth and a solar system and a galaxy, the fabric of eternity, an infinite castle of conditions changing by nature. Therefore, anatta, uncontrollable. Even the most lucid, the most wise, there can be the loss of cognitive functions through dementia, Alzheimer's. One even loses their memory of wisdom. We are conditioned creatures in an infinite ocean. The power of wisdom to discern, to feel, to know, to restrain, and to elevate. By seeing anicca, change, anatta, emptiness of permanent fixation, a kaleidoscopic, holographic infinity of interrelated particles and conditions that they call lawful, therefore the word dharma, lawfulness of all degrees of intelligence, but vastly mysterious to the human mind, unless one enters this unthinkable paradox and puzzle and configuration of form and mind, and empowers nibbana, wisdom, through the intimate observation, the felt experiential observation of anicca, anatta, emptiness of self, emptiness of control, and dukkha. Dukkha, essentially, through blind grasping, the result when change occurs, there is suffering, dissatisfaction. Cling to the body, and there will be fear upon death and aging. Cling to the mind as it changes in lucidity and frequency, there will be suffering. Free the mind of greed, fear, and delusion through the portals of anicca, anatta, and dukkha, through the filter of panya, wisdom, to attain in the moment nibbana, and to stay in that trajectory until we all reach the highest awakening of freedom from fear, freedom from greed, and freedom from ignorance. Collectively, this mandala of the heart can be summed up in one word: bhavana. A synonym for rebirthing, the power of engaging the most beautiful qualities of consciousness and evolving them. That to me is mindful intelligence. That to me is the meaning of bhavana, the flowering of consciousness. Understanding what nurtures the plant, the seed, and the flower to open. And the fragrance of freedom will be found. Neglect these nurturing qualities of consciousness. And there'll be the absence of the flowering and the fragrance. Cause and effect. So today, as we emerge into the day, and based on unforeseen circumstances, we'll have an opening meditation and talk and conclude this remarkably sacred event of a New Year's rebirthing into life in the future retreat. May it be the seed that we individually and collectively nurture to open our individual flower, the collective flower, and maybe even the cosmological flower. Each of us today, may we reaffirm and dedicate this year, if you feel inclined, to the adhitant, the personal cognitive vow, the deliberate intentionality rooted in truthfulness of self-honesty. I dedicate this year my life to bhavana, to the actualization of the 5 constituents of the mandala of the heart of enlightenment. And may I study and feel and have the courage to evolve my own relationship to panya, nibbana, and the understanding of change, anicca, anatta, emptiness, and dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, through the beautification of the mind, through bhavana. So may I invite you, please, to take a comfortable posture and let us sit for a little bit with a very simple guided meditation to further this rebirthing into the new year on a felt experiential level. Sitting on a chair, a bench, a cushion, the floor, hands either on one's knees or cupped in one's lap. Most important is to take a posture. A deliberate posture. And anoint it with purpose. A deliberate action of purpose. For me, it's reflected in how attitudinally I respect the development of meaning in my life. This is a sacred act. And I want to sit up straight for it, but not tense. So I lower my shoulders, but keep them upright. And I try my best to sit down fully on the ground, the earth, on the cushion, and do what I can to relax anticipation, to relax the momentum of becoming, and to enter the sacredness of my own interior with this quality of pure awareness, a mindfully intelligent, luminous, pure awareness. The mindful intelligence part is an active, non-conceptual discernment. Whatever I feel inside of the mind that is rooted or connected to fear, greed, ignorance, and the 5,000 shadows of those 3 qualities The intelligence is to see it. If there's a reaction to any of those qualities, to see and feel that. To abide for a few seconds, to develop a knowing of the feeling, the taste or the texture, and the intelligence to release consciousness from collusion with any denigrating quality of mind, and return to the pure awareness inhabiting the body, inhabiting the mind, letting the breathing breathe on its own, letting the flow of primordial consciousness move through the mind into the environment, into life, through memory, into the present, and perhaps into the future. I see you, I feel you. Meditation for me is the sacred act of mindfully, intelligently feeling the primordial flow of being as it occurs here in this vast, multidimensional place of now, everywhere, always, all dimensions, past, future, present, no distinction. The courage to feel, the courage to see, the courage to know, the courage to release, the art of mindfully accepting and letting go, to be in the primordial flow, touching, kissing, feeling that flow with the grace of conscious freedom, mindfully intelligent, conscious freedom. To feel, see, know, accept, release. Let the breathing breathe on its own. Internalize these instructions to the ability you feel them appropriate to you. Hear them again and again and again, so they become natural within one's own consciousness, unspoken, personal teachings to abide in the mindfully intelligent, pure awareness of the primordial flow of being. I see you, I touch you, I release you, letting the freedom flow. Living in radiant freedom through pure awareness, informed by mindful intelligence. Sitting upright, letting our eyes close, our jaw relaxed. Sitting down fully on the chair, the cushion, wherever you are. Letting the breathing breathe on its own, relaxing the lower abdomen. Ambient sounds inside, ambient sounds outside. Cars, birds. Just sound, frequency, auditory frequency. The voices of God. I hear you, I see you. I release you, letting the freedom flow. transcending any form of vexation, letting the freedom flow. Rebirthing through the beautification of conscious life. The deliberate sculpting of a beautiful mind on the terms of our novelty, our creativity, our uniqueness. No two of us will do it alike. Honor both independence, individuality, and the beauty of one's own uniqueness in this great context of others, of the environment, of multiple millions of species in a solar system, in a galaxy, among infinite galaxies, infinite dimensions, potentially, who knows, infinite universes beyond even language, beyond even the quantum physics of the greatest minds ever to have lived. This vastness, assuming a conscious role in this vastness, the role of the yogi, the role of the dakini, the role of the meditator, the role of the Dharma artist, the role of an awakening human. Accept the invitation to the extent that you wish and make good on the promise of developing our bhavana, our own unique fragrance of freedom. In breath, out breath. Neither wish to live nor fear dying. In breath, out breath. Natural rhythm, whatever it is. Feel the entirety of the interior of the body, the energy, the tingling, the vibration, the frequency of physical stature. Attune. Feel. Remembering the wisdom of pure awareness. Here we are, the deliberate entity of pure awareness. Letting the sensations be known and let the freedom flow, let them go. Breathing will be felt. Know it. Free it. Let it go. If there are sensations of discomfort, notice them. Feel. Let it go. Sounds. Hear them in the inner ear. See the images associated with them. Mindfully know them. Let them naturally go. Freedom flows. thoughts and impressions and memories arise and are known. Feel them, know them, let them go. Freedom flows. Practice the life force of cultivating freedom. If the mind wanders, which it does, re-inhabit the interior of the body as oxygen fills the lungs, as oxygen flows through our blood and fills the body. Let the oxygen of pure awareness rest comfortably inside the body. And its function is to see, feel, know, discern, release, let the freedom flow. All without thought, unless thought arises, and we know that. We even know the category of thought. Love, sadness, judgment, reflection, anticipation. We begin to discern categories of thought, the emotionality associated with thought. We see, we feel, we know, we release, and we let the freedom flow. Minute by minute, developing a mindfully intelligent, pure awareness. Innately in the process, we're embodying as well as cultivating radical self-respect. There is nothing I am unwilling to look at, see, know, discern, learn from, release, and let the freedom flow. Dignity. The embodiment of a mindfully intelligent, informed conscience. The innate power of self-honesty, truthfulness as nature being developed. All attributes of freedom. If you find yourself thinking about thinking, which is natural, if you feel inclined, develop the courage to disengage from thought. The most troublesome thoughts, the most delicious thoughts, and trust in the conscious disengagement as a powerful Dharma force to open the mind to deeper dimensions of intelligence and information. Call it the intuitive and the pre-intuitive, opening the mind to natural epiphany, deeper forms of innate resolution, rather than the conditioned habit of thinking about thinking, about thinking, about thinking. Everything gained, nothing lost. To see the thought and develop the habit of not getting the last thought in before releasing. I see you, I feel you, I know you, I know what type of thought you are. Release, let the freedom flow. Keep opening the flower of consciousness to its innate miracle, its healing power, its psychic power, its intuitive power, its discerning power, its pure power, unlimited power, through overcoming fear, overcoming greed, overcoming ignorance. A lifelong journey, breath by breath. Come what may, I will face you, see you, listen and learn and discern, let go, elevate, let the freedom flow. And please let us do our very best to actualize whatever guidance you felt to be appropriate in this meditation, to bring it deeply into heart and consciousness in each of us, should you so choose. To bring every force of courage and dignity, every force of the sacred, every force of goodness and beauty that we know and feel inspired to actualize. Let's bring it forth in these final few minutes. As the spine and the marrow and the brain and the muscles and the blood and the oxygen of our mindful intelligence. Rebirthing, the rebirthing of new life through existing life, the life of consciousness, the life of the mind. And whatever forms reform around this mind flow, let's rebirth into that honor until we transcend, if you so choose as vocation, all forms, inside and outside. Nibbana, unconditional. The aspiration to know the highest states possible. The complete overcoming of the kilesa, of fear, greed, and delusion, nibbana, known as the arhat state, the full flowering of freedom. May our rebirthing be informed, if you so choose, by this ancient, timeless vocation. Of awakening and enlightenment. Nicca vata sankara, upadavaya damino, upatichava nirajanti te sam vupasamo sukho. All conditioned phenomena are anicca, subject to change. To understand this truth is to live in the highest happiness. Anatta vata sankara, upadavaya damino, upatichava nirajanti te sam vupasamo sukho. All conditioned phenomena are empty of permanent self, a free-flowing conditionality. To understand this is to live in the highest happiness. Dukkha vata sankara upadavaya damino, upatichava nirajanti te sambupasamo sukho. All conditioned phenomena are subject to change and empty of self, beyond permanent control. To understand this at the deepest levels, may I vow to understand this at the deepest levels, is the highest happiness. Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So please feel free to do what you need to do, change your posture, and we'll end this meditation now, although we'll continue it now as well, for a short talk, an opening and a closing, a rebirthing talk. And I bid you well. When I lived as a monk and rebirthed into the world post-monastic life, there have been some very special things that have stayed with me. To bring this vocation of the Dharma life, finding liberation through living, into greater clarity, greater intelligence, greater power, and to devote more and more of my cognitive life, my physical life, my voice and my thoughts to the Dhamma as the priority of everything. How could there ever be a time inappropriate to beautify consciousness through thought, speech, and action? And my teachers in Burma, beloved Burma, at the centers where I lived, they would say that this bhavana process, this vocation of panya, nibbana, in the study of anicca, anatta, and dukkha, is an all-posture practice. There is no preferred posture to embody beauty. And I've, over the years, developed this concept of postural apartheid, how many yogis consider that sitting is preferable than mindfully, intelligently sipping tea or even wine or even whatever you do that you ingest, or to walk, or to simply touch your face with the kindest, most intelligent, gentle sense of pressure, washing your face with soap. How well do you do what you do in all postures, sitting, walking, standing, reclining? And the fifth posture was known as everything between sitting, walking, standing, and reclining. In the monastery, we call this no time off meditation. No time off from beauty. No time off from bhavana. No time off from being in the freedom flow of being in cognitive physical intimacy. Cognitive physical intimacy, another way to look at meditation. Cognitive physical intimacy. I see you, I feel you, I have the courage to stay with you if it's discomfortable. How many times we've lived and live with physical discomfort. How many of us know people living in physical discomfort? If we don't have the ability to move, we will find radical discomfort. Comfort is very conditioned by movement, the ability to move the body. And many of us at times can't move. Each of us have parents, some alive, some dead, different ages. My mom and dad died at 96. My mom, for the last 10 years of her life, was in a wheelchair. The last 3 years, pretty much unable to move at all. Everything, although her mind was radically clear, beautiful. Alan, I can't do anything without the assistance of others. Her mother, my grandmother, died at 99. I talked to her before her death. She was my saint, my mystical goddess. Being turned side to side for the last few years of her life with assisted support in the home she lived, unable to move her body. These are the facts of life. And to bring freedom to the flow of phenomena, whoa. So we're in this flowering practice, not just to be in the temporary beauty of the now, but to know that there could be complexities, psychological complexities, emotional complexities, physical complexities, that we will pray that we have done trainings to strengthen the fibers of courage. I look at my own personal life right now and the things that I'm facing. It fluctuates like 1,000 days and nights in an hour sometimes. From resilience to clarity to wisdom to satirical irreverence about terminality and dying and loss of loved ones and rebirth and the ideology of the flowering of consciousness. And then there's the reality sometimes of my innate humanness and the vulnerability of that. At the core of it, I have felt ever more clearly and intimately the value of my choices. Do you want to have that dignity, that conscience in your heart? I know you know that. I can't emphasize enough. People ask me, how do you do it? It's rising up proportionate to the complexity. We evolve dignity, conscience, moral courage. What is our lives about without the courage to look at shadow, at ego, at struggle, at delusion, at fear, at propaganda? What are you made of? And this process, this bhavana process, strengthens everything good. And a synonym for good is beautiful. But beauty also has power. It has fire. I got turned on to the Dharma when I was 16, looking into a mirror after a tragic car accident with my head bandaged and a month in a hospital, having gone through the windshield, traumatized, broken, bleeding, unable to see. And I, for the first time, looked into the mirror to look at my fucking mangled head. That was horrific. How could you have done this to yourself? You are now the ugliest human being ever. And the shame and the worry. And I had seen that monk in Vietnam on television who had walked to that city center in Saigon and for some reason doused his body with kerosene and lit himself on fire. And unbeknownst to anyone, there was a cameraman there that captured that immolation worldwide. This act of conscience, of self-immolation, broke the coma of many people in the world. Why would this monk burn himself deliberately? To set the world of conscience on fire, to reflect at transgressions, at fears, at greed. Come out of your coma, your hypnosis, world leaders. Look what you're doing to my people in Vietnam. You're torturing them, you're beleaguering them, you're tyrannizing them, you're committing a genocide. Both the North and the South, the Americans and the communists, all for the sake of what? Ideological insanity. And the monk lit himself on fire. And I said, what? How? Why? I was barely 16. And all I could think about is, how could he do that? And how could he do it and not move? What place inside of his mind had something so cool or so resilient to deal with that level of pain? And I looked at my fucking mangled head and said, he could do it, I can do it. That was the beginning of my fire. And now, look at our circumstances, each of us. Look at the complexities of our society, our country. Look at the war of families and divorces and separations of loving people who can't talk to one another, can't mindfully reflect on their own mind and process and learn from the complexity. Where is that nun, that monk, immolating her and himself on the city streets of every corner of every city in the world today? Wake up out of this mass hypnosis, Earth. Wake up. There's no time for this level of mass delusion in what looks to be a global, orchestrated rise of totalitarianism, and I dare say possibly a global genocide. Something is being done here that is nefarious, and it's either ignorant or it's orchestrated fucking murder. I don't know, but it's wrong. And my heart is on fire. I know that I'm not alone. I'm blessed. I'm blessed with family. I'm blessed with incredibly beautiful friends. I'm blessed with a magnificent daughter. I'm blessed with my health, that I'm able to talk and eat and walk still. I'm blessed that I'm graced in a sacred little temple here in Haiku on this blessed island of Maui in Hawaii on earth. I'm blessed to be in a creative process, writing and studying and creating this cinematic mandala titled Raw War, the greatest spiritual battle ever, fighting the rise of totalitarianism. It's going to be a radically irreverent, satirical, cinematic, spoken word, Dharma artist fest. I'm going to lose it. I want to lose it more and more every day. Authenticity now and honesty and integrity and conscience is taking the highest priority. I'm a nonviolent activist, and I support those who use the weapon, like in Burma, a defensive war on terrorism. I've been in war zones. I'm not a pacifist. I'm a relative pragmatist. I would take up the weapon if needed, but I'm deliberately conscious of the power of consciousness as a peaceful, spiritual, civil, social, existential rebel. And may I invite you, if you feel inclined, rebel from those conditions inside of consciousness that denigrate, make one small, that makes your voice collapse. Think twice, feel deeper, and use the power that's innate in each of us. The power of voice is not just sound, but the meaning that we bring out of those auditory frequencies, the musicality. What is your song of freedom? Let the world rise up in a great musical auditory fest of revolution today. Support the boys and girls alive in a future to believe in. My time and days are short. Your time, maybe you feel also, is short. And it could be, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I look through the echocardiograms and the MRIs, and they tell me you're going to die any second, even if you sneeze. And it could be 10 million years from now before that sneeze comes on. I'm rebirthing, and if I die today, so be it. And if it's a year from now, so be it. Time is not that relevant. What matters most is the courage to care about things larger than my own body, my own self-interest. Care about the future of freedom, a future to believe in. Give the kids hope. And I'll close. I've written a children's book meant for adults, but meant for the children. It's a gift. It's a gift first and foremost for my beloved daughter. For you, Bella. And equally for the kids in every country on our blessed planet, every language. And for the unborn, for the infinite embryonic conditions of fusion of genders or whatever is required in the celestial realms to impregnate the already unlimited pregnancy of eternity with birthing processes. We're in this symphony of life. How sacred is it if we only meditatively psychedelicized and felt the reality of this incredible sacred existence of life formations reforming. If only, right, we studied the flow of consciousness, the study of what contracts, conflicts, creates suffering, confusion, denigration. What are the constituents psychologically and emotionally that give rise in one's own mind, Mr. Hitler, Mr. Xi Jinping, and any of the other dictators out there wanting to understand the playbook of tyranny? States of consciousness. Things I've learned in the monastery, all times, all postures, all degrees of complexity. Study, Alan, SOCs, states of consciousness. Know them, feel their texture, their characteristics, and know how to mindfully determine through critical analysis, deep discernment, no, 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 no. I don't want any part of you, fear. Bye. That's a mindfully intelligent response of release. That's the art of letting go, right? Stating the obvious. A state of consciousness within consciousness to discern what I don't want in my consciousness. Fear, greed, delusion. I don't want it. It's there. I'll coexist with it, but I'm in revolution with it, and I want to be in revolution with it outside of myself. How can we create inflection points in society today, collectively, where there's a mass rebellion in the mind of other, even in the most radical tyrant, that pauses for a minute, right? And goes, let me reconsider this. If just 1 minute, 1 second, and all of a sudden I've seen in my own life where I went from who I was to go, oh no, I don't have to be that way. That's not a way to be. That's not a way to be. It's not right to lie. It's not right to take and steal. It's not right to deceive. It's not right to feel greed. It's not right. It's not right. Wake up. Wake up? Yes, there's an opposite of delusion. It's called panya, wisdom. And it gathers in momentum, right? States of consciousness is the deal. It's not a religion. I dare even use the word of dharma. It's the study of consciousness on a felt level. If I leave nothing behind, it's in this children's book, the best book I've ever written. 21 pages. It is done, and it's called I Met a Deva Tonight, an Angel of Love. A Deva who lives with where I am going. I pray to be in the company of Maitreya, the next Buddha. And this Deva comes to a child, and the child and the Deva have a conversation from the heart about the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, of what it means to embody wakefulness in an artful and creative way. And the Deva disappears, and the child goes to sleep and wakes up. And I won't tell you the outcome. Soon to be out there, I pray. If you have interest in translating this into German or French or Spanish, Albanian, Balinese, Burmese, it's being Tibetan, translated now, I'm told, into Tibetan. But I'm waiting to feel. Reach out to me. I do believe that my final acts in this world are for the children and the unborn, and leaving this small little legacy in the ocean of time, on the sands of eternity, that may be of value to you, to someone who comes across it somewhere down the road. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for tuning in. I'm in retreat. I'm going to stay in retreat through the month in my sacred little temple, where I'm meditating, staying in silence, doing my yoga, intermittent fasting, quite taken by the occasional sacred medicine dosing. And nature here is just so radically awake. I found a sacred forest to meditate in, and where I live is a sacred garden. I feel blessed and know that I'm being held with the friends in my life by the people who are supporting me, by these epic angels in hospice that visit me. And into the future we go, and I pray that there comes a time where we're able to meet in person, to dance, to play, to love, to kiss, to talk, to walk, to meditate in this dimension or in the next. So, from my heart to yours, have a beautiful life, and remember the power of your Dharma intelligence and your own relationship to rebirthing into the future that you feel most valuable to you. Thank you.